The main thing that I think was really stunning with this episode of Virgin Soul is actually how they used Nina and her kind of cheerful and just playful personality to contrast the dark war that was approaching and then eventually started in this episode, which is something that I think could either be criticized by many in the community or just brushed aside as nothing too special. But the thing that's interesting with Nina is constantly she doesn't see the big picture, she doesn't see truly what's going on, very similar to a child. It's very easy to just believe everything's peaceful or just everything is evil. There is no kind of middle ground, and she easily gets wrapped up in situations like helping Azio, which she doesn't actually know what his true intentions was, to then also just everything with the king and whatnot. So, watching her just kind of cheerfully escape this prison, and then you would cut back, and then it would just be gloomy, Charius is waiting for war, and then angels and gods are just raining despair and terror on humans. So it's really interesting how they edited that, and also just like the way they were using the camera movements. Like with the fight inside the prison, it was really playful and it was very engaging to watch, but it was so contrasting to the actual fight that was going on outside of the prison. And I think the way they use Nina and her kind of obliviousness is actually really good, and it really makes the entire show just feel much more complete. That's at least how I feel. But this episode overall was really good. I mean, at the core, we're seeing Mugro is strong. We've seen his power, but we've never seen it in full force. Seeing what he can do, he can bring down all that are using more or less the magic of the gods in their armor just completely down, and it looks to be like humanity is screwed. And I mean, you even see some riots and whatnot saying screw the king, which naturally happens in these types of scenarios. Like whenever a king brings their kingdom into war in some way, there's always going to be that mob saying F the king, but then ultimately the soldiers will either kill those people or just smack them upside the head. But I think the way they handled this was really interesting, because for this season at least, if we look back in season 1, it was a little different, with demons having much more power going against the humans, also the gods and Bahamut himself. But ultimately with this season, humans have been on top, demons at the bottom, and gods have just been kind of pushed to the sidelines because they can't oppose this king. So watching the gods and just the overall angels come at the humans in full force, it was like, yes, like we knew exactly what Mugro was capable of, and if you remove the power that they stole, it would seem like gods could go on top. But the thing with it is Charius isn't just some fuckboy. Like, Charius is a king who's proven himself that he can lead humanity. He may not be, you know, indestructible, but at the core, he's got shit ready. And even though his secret weapon wasn't fully ready, he has no choice but to bust out this giant orb, which who knows what the hell that's gonna do. We know it's something to do with stolen technology from the gods, but also with human engineering on top, which humans are a species to be feared with. I mean, at the core, many alien stories that has humans mixed in with other species are always portrayed as a very kind of fearful, like, species, because at the core we advance so fast compared to a lot of others. Our intelligence can let us advance in, like, even if you look at where we were 100 years ago to comparing to where we are. So at the core, humans advance very fastly, so if you give them a bit of angel/god powers mixed in with the best minds humanity currently has to offer, you could probably make a weapon that matches Mugro, if not surpasses him. So I'm really interested if this secret weapon is going to be something similar to what Mugro's doing, if it's some sort of draining ability, like he's going to drain the power from the angels, and then ultimately they're going to have to fall to the ground, and then human swords are just going to cut their throats. I could see something like that happening, but I have to give major props to this soundtrack. The sound department went above and beyond. For like 5 minutes, there was like no voice acting. It was just the OST and the animation showing the brutality of the angels and the gods. And it was beautiful and a little sick all in one, and I absolutely loved it. But definitely next week is going to be interesting, because we're going to see whose weapon is stronger. Is the gods with Mugro stronger, or is Charius and his secret weapon? Because despite this not being ready, it could easily surpass him, but maybe it'll blow up on him. You never know what's going to happen, but I could definitely see something possibly like Charius's weapon is going to work for a while, and then maybe because it's unfinished, it's going to break. To then, because everyone's more or less inside this orb thing, I wouldn't be surprised if then Mugro sees his mother, and maybe that stops him from attacking, which then will give Charius the upper hand to use his soldiers, no longer be held down, and they could use their armor and then just slaughter, and then ultimately the gods would be forced to retreat, and possibly Mugro would be brought with them. To then you could see probably Charius fine-tuning and perfecting this weapon. I think that's probably, I wouldn't be surprised if I just hit the nail on the head. Basically, the weapon works for a bit, it then stops working, Mugro sees his mother, he stops using his ability, Charius's army fights back and pushes the gods away, and then ultimately they start repairing this weapon and make it kind of complete for the final few episodes, or a few episodes down the line, something like that. Something like that is probably going to happen, but they could do some twists and turns, possibly with Nina going into her dragon form. But at the core, they laid out this episode perfectly with the execution. Just watching the prison break, It was entertaining, it was funny, seeing Kaiser Hand has like this self-destruct mechanism that Favreau was just waiting for. There was a lot of really funny moments and kind of just humorous moments, but I think the way they contrasted Nina's side, comparing it to what was happening outside the world, was really good, especially when you look at her personality in a nutshell, which it's very childish and very oblivious, and doesn't really see the full picture of things, and it's why she's an easy target to manipulate for any side, and it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to carry on with the second half of the series, and which side more or less manipulates her, and if Cherries will have her on her side, because if this weapon works out and also having a dragon on your side, you wouldn't be doing too bad in terms of a war asset, at least that's my opinion. But this episode was absolutely great. I just think overall, there was a little bit of something for everyone. The war was awesome, and it's going to be interesting to see how this battle is going to finish off, because we know Cherries isn't going out next week. Cherries could actually win this entire series, or maybe the demons will. You never really know until you watch the next episode. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What did you think of the episode, and how do you think next episode is going to go down? Do you agree with me on how this weapon's going to go and how they're eventually going to have to be pushed back? Or do you have a different theory? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And before you leave, smack that like button to show your support. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.